To Wellness Wednesdays and Rise Up with Orion's podcast. Thank you so much for joining our discussion today. It is entitled Stressed: How to Overcome Opposition with Fitness. I would love to introduce my friend Chris Shane. He is a USA Track and Field certified coach who has 12 years of coaching experience with the NCAA Division I level. He's a distance running specialist. Chris currently serves as our assistant track coach at Utah Valley University. Chris has coached multiple national champions and All-Americans, as well as dozens of other conference champions. Chris himself is a former collegiate athlete at Brigham Young University, and Chris continues to test his limits by taking on big challenges each year. I know you just finished a big one, Chris, where you were doing 100 days of an unbelievable challenge. So Chris, thank you so much for joining our discussion today.
Thanks for having me, Tara.
Anything that I missed that you'd like to reintroduce yourself? Anything that you want to share? Tell us about this 100 days or this Conquer Challenge that you just finished.
So this was a buddy of mine, actually, who his name is James Lawrence. He is referred to in the scene as the Iron Cowboy. Many of you probably have heard of him, but he did 100 full distance triathlons. That's 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a marathon every single day for the past 100 days. He just finished last week, and I had vowed to do 100 half marathons every day with him. I got about 25 in, and my life decided, like, everything started falling apart. It was such a challenge just to do a half a marathon a day. Like, I decided to do it all in one time. So not just 13 cumulative miles, but just all at one time. It got too much. So the fact that he was able to finish 100 full distance triathlons, and he dubbed them full Iron Cowboy distance triathlons in the end, because he's the only person in history that's ever even come close to that. And it's a remarkable feat. So yeah, I'm just an average guy. I'm a has-been. I used to be a great runner, and now I just choose to pick challenges that excite me, that terrify me, and see what I'm capable of doing now into my 40s. So.
Well, that does not sound like an average guy to me. So very impressed. Good for you for any of that you completed. That is far better than probably myself and many individuals on this call today. And I think, Chris, that's a great segue into this word that we're talking about today, is opposition. So what does that word mean to you, or, an example maybe within your life, or maybe even the Iron Cowboy's life? What is opposition?
Yeah, so there's a very literal translation to opposition. I think when people hear that opposition, it's like, oh yeah, it's a hurdle to overcome. It's a very very literal, or I guess you can call it metaphorical. But I wanna tell you about a little bit. I'm gonna get into some exercise physiology here, right? A physical or mental barrier, the body has these built-in fail safes, okay? It keeps us alive. If we start experiencing pain, that's the body's way, or the brain's way of saying, warning, if you continue to do this, this could be bad for us. But the brain is not great at knowing the end result of certain things. So it might recognize a physical barrier, and we might go through some pain, and that's the brain's way of telling us, hey, warning, this may not be best for us. But the brain doesn't know that that actually is probably the best thing for us, or will certainly help us to improve. So for example, when it comes to training philosophy, training theory, okay, if you're an athlete, if you go out and do the same thing over and over and over and over again, you get really good at doing just that one thing. And people forget that the body adapts. So you might go out and you might go for a run, and the next day you might be sore. You probably will be sore, okay? You have just broken down the body. The brain is sending pain signals to you, warning, this is not good. The muscles actually break apart. You break them apart, and then the body is fantastic at rebuilding itself. You've now become stronger by putting yourself through a barrier, pushing yourself over that barrier. You are now able to do more work, faster pace, more of it. Okay, that's That is essentially training theory or training physiology 101. The way that you improve then is that you now can't do the same thing that you just did before. I mean, you will, but it doesn't help you like it helped before. Now you have to increase the level gradually, give yourself another barrier, and overcome that. Push yourself, and all the while, your brain will be sending these signals to you: warning, warning, this is not good.
Hmm.
This could really be bad. And you kind of have to ignore those feelings of discomfort and get into a place where you're mentally just okay with it. And the same thing happens over and over and over again as we gradually increase our level of adaptation and to these new stressors or these new barriers, we get better. So how does that apply to our life, our situation? It's very metaphorical here because you'll have things that come up, and when you finish them or when you complete these tasks or you find a way to I mean, shoot, maybe it's just clearing off your desk, the mess,
Hmm.
or whatever. It just starts to pile up. You've got dishes in the kitchen, all this stuff. That's a barrier. That's a legitimate barrier to your own
Hmm.
sanity, right? I'm looking right now in my head thinking about the mess that is my clothes and laundry and stuff on the side of my bed. It's causing me anxiety and stress. But when I overcome that barrier and I fold those suckers and I put them away,
Hmm.
suddenly I feel great. And that's how it goes. So opposition to me is it might seem like something that we're constantly being steered away from by our brain and by our natural inclination, but that is intuitively the wrong choice in a lot of ways. What we need to do is we need to put our head down and we literally need to go right at it. And when we go right at it and we overcome these things, only then does the body get stronger, does the mind get stronger and realize, hey, I that was great.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm thinking about it too within all aspects of well-being as well, no matter if it's a, social barrier that you just need to have a, crucial conversation with someone that you love or a friend, financial barriers, whether it be budgeting or just paying off that credit card bill. I think we can overcome opposition in every aspect of well-being as well, which is what I love that you just said is we can only do better than we did yesterday. And I think, our self is that competition. So I love, just putting your head down and, overcoming whatever barrier or opposition is ahead of us. So that is so great. Chris, do you have any examples of, maybe professional athletes or yourself or athletes that, maybe you're going to the Olympics next month that are maybe prime examples of how they use fitness to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up a really great point that I just wanted to touch on is being better than yourself or improving on yourself. There's such a there's such a pandemic of looking at others, judging ourselves based on what others are doing, calculating your own self-worth based on what other people are doing and how you are doing in relation to them. But that's totally counterintuitive and can be destructive because we can only be as good as we can be for ourselves. Genetically, I didn't get a chance to choose my parents. So unfortunately, I have the genetics that I have, and I can only do what I can do with them physically from my own seat and my perspective. And that is the case with everything, not just physically, not just genetically for athletic purposes, but also emotionally and mentally. Like we're all carrying around a deck of cards, so to speak, and we can only play the hand that we're dealt from our own deck of cards every single day. And the key really is to do the best that we can with what we have. And some of us might have more than others, and that's okay. Great for them if they have more than we have. So I have three rules that are kind of my life rules and coach rules,
Mhm.
and those are to be a good person, be a good teammate, and give max effort. Okay, be a good person is kind of just a general. I just feel like being a good person and doing good deeds and caring about people is a good thing. and you'll never regret caring more about others and just being a good person. Being a good teammate, you don't have to be on an actual sports team or a work team or anything for that to apply, but being a good teammate is more individual focused. If you see somebody struggling, it could be a friend, a family, a coworker, a teammate, reach out, talk to that person, give them some encouragement, be a good individual person, a supporter individually on a one-on-one level. And that really matters. And you'll find that you build relationships one-on-one with people and synergize and are able to then overcome together more things. You'll be surprised when you give advice to somebody or try to help a person who you feel is struggling. It actually gives you the resolve to do better at what you've got going on as well. And so it's very synergistic in that approach. And then giving max effort is just like you said, you can only be the best you can be. So, I have athletes who train all year long and they get sick right before the championship, and they're stressed out. I'm not going to run my best. This is so frustrating, and it's okay to be frustrated when things come up, but you can always go to sleep at night if you know that you gave it all you could, and
Exactly.
and you forget about what it means to be uh, the best ever, and you think about what it means to be the best on that day. And that's whether or not you're working or running or doing anything. Just try to be the best you can on that day, and give yourself grace when you might fall a little short, or heaven forbid you actually get discouraged and quit on yourself. I
Mhm.
mean, that's worst case scenario, right? You quit on yourself, but a lot of times when we quit, we experience this like inner guilt or turmoil that drives us to the next thing. And you don't like how that feels when you quit on something or you don't give max effort. And so that intrinsically will motivate you to do something more. So really quickly, I wanted to get into, I rambled there, I'm sorry, but
You're fine. No,
um,
I love it. It really it just fuels that passion. So I think those are amazing little things. I mean, how can you not feel good about yourself when you go to bed, as you said, really, feeling so fulfilled when you're a nice person. You have people there that support you and you tried. So I think that's amazing. So thanks for sharing that.
Oh, you bet. Well, I want to get into just a couple examples. Okay, so we newsflash, we had a pandemic and we got through it. We're starting to come out of it. I was one of the lucky few that did not contract COVID. Um, I feel like that was a miracle because I was around all these college students who were getting it like crazy. But it was a tough time. I mean, for me personally, I can tell you it was a difficult time. And there were choices that I just wanted sometimes sitting at home. I was just like, you know what? Well, I'm not going into work today. Um, Nobody will blame me if I just don't work.
Mhm.
If I just call in sick, if I don't go out and exercise, if I don't do things, nobody who's gonna get mad at me. We're in a pandemic, this is tough times. I'm going to take one for me, and I'm just going to sit down. And then that kind of keeps going, and it's contagious. And the next thing you know,
Mhm.
you're like, man, I don't even want to get out of bed today, right?
Or tomorrow, or for the last
Yeah,
5 days. It's
that's,
okay.
that's a real thing. And I am a pretty self-starting motivated type of person, but I was definitely struggling. Um, anyway, there's choices that we make. And I want to give you an example of a couple of those choices that people make. There were, by the way, more world records in track and field that were broken this last year than any year that I can remember. The 5,000 meter women's world record was just broken twice within 3 days. That was a record that's only had 3 women hold it ever,
Wow.
and it's stunning. The 10,000 meter on the track was broken. The half marathon on the roads was broken. The 1 hour effort was broken. Both men and women doing this. Um, the pole vault world record was broken. The high school 5K was broken. High school mile was broken. On the women's side, there were multiple people doing astonishing things. Like I said, my friend James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, did
Mhm.
100 consecutive full distance triathlons, and he had to start his training during the pandemic when there was a lot of
Yeah.
uncertainty. And there have just been incredible things. I have had athletes who came off of being pregnant, had a child, getting motivated to lose weight or get yourself back in a good place physically after having a child is something that I don't know how anybody does it, and it's so empowering when I see people just survive after pregnancy. I'm so glad that I'm a guy and I don't have to birth a child, because I don't know how anybody could do it.
Yeah.
Um, but there's just great examples, and I was getting a lot of emails during the pandemic last year, um, emails from potential recruits that wanted to join our team. And a theme that I would get in these emails was, I wasn't able to have a track season last year because COVID cut it short, and I therefore my times aren't as good as they could have been because I didn't have that time to do it. I got a lot of those, and every time I would read those, I would at first I would read them and I would think, yeah, you're right, that's a bummer. Then I was reading some, and I would get a different kind of email. Hey, coach, really interested in your team. My season got cut short last year because of COVID, but I decided to continue to train, and I just found a local track and I just did some time trials by myself. I know that they're not the best times because there's not competition involved, but I was 1 second off of my personal best in the mile, and I hope that I can find a spot in your team. Those two different scenarios started to open up my mind and think, wow, I want to illuminate these high school kids that thought that their season was ruined or over because of some external factor that happened to them, like COVID. The fact of the matter is, in some cities and some states, you couldn't go outside without wearing a mask. I get it. I get that. But there is always a way. There's always a way to do more. And for most people, you can walk to your local high school or the closest track near you. The gates are open. There's no one holding you back from testing yourself. There's no one holding you back from walking out that door, lacing up your shoes, and going for a run and testing yourself, or just getting out the door for your own sanity. So it really falls on the person to do that work. And I found a clear distinction of the people that decided to use COVID as kind of an excuse to do less, and then the people that are breaking world records and doing these incredible things, they used it as a time to train when their competition was sleeping, or even just an added motivation of, you know what, if I can do this during this, I can do anything. And that is kind of the mantra that I've had now post COVID era. I know we're still kind of in it a little bit, but literally feel like, wow, that was one of the most difficult years of my life from a coach. I was so busy. If I can do all of that and still function, I can do anything. And so it really, lots of great examples. I could give so many, but I'll leave it there.
I love it. And it's one of those where we talk about it a lot with Orion and our coaching staff, is to help people figure out what their why is. And if they don't have a why, they're not going to get up off the couch, and that's okay. But again, I think all those world records and your athletes that were sending that one side of the email, they all had a why, and it was very different for everybody. Just a personal example on my side, and my mother, told it to me straight, is I signed up for, it's called the Triathlon. So it's a sprint triathlon. I did it a couple of years ago after I had my first child, and I'm signed up for it again. And my mom was like, why are you doing that to yourself? And I said, Mom, because I know I can physically do it, but it's the mental thing for me. And so again, that was the kind of my aha moment. Why am I doing this? But it was so much the mental game for myself, because I know I can do it. But mentally, do I believe in myself that I can do it? So I'm signed up for it. So there's my why. So coach, keep me accountable to that. But again, I think, that why is so important. And I think that's unbelievable. And I can only imagine with the Olympics coming up, I'm sure, are going to be jumping out of your seat for so many of the things that you're seeing that you've probably never seen before.
Yeah, that's one of the most exciting things to me. I mean, we live life and we see it all, you know, and sometimes life gets mundane, work gets mundane because we just see the same things over and over and over again, and that can be a barrier too, an obstacle to overcome. Is how do I keep going, or how do I motivate myself when it seems like everything is kind of the same routine? And just know that there's so much new out there waiting. It's just a matter of having your eyes open and being game to experiencing it, and not being afraid to settle and take that next step, take that next challenge, choose something that terrifies you, you
Mhm.
know, and set it as a goal, and shock yourself when you realize that you're much better than you ever thought you could be. If you're in a great spot and life is really cozy right now and you just like your routine, great, that's awesome. That nothing wrong with that. Maybe look to other things to kind of inspire you, to help you kind of feed that flame.
Mhm.
Keep the flame lit. If it's stoked right now, and everything is going really well. The Olympics is great. These motivation, these
Mhm.
inspiring events. You can draw motivation from a lot of things, and so that's one thing that I love about life, is that there's always something new, and sometimes exciting, sometimes terrifying, sometimes tragic around the corner. But it's always evolving, and we can always kind of have something, the next thing.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of individuals who are probably going to listen to this podcast later on that are just struggling to get back into their routine after the last 18 months of uncertainty and chaos. So, from your coaching hat that you wear and your personal hat as well, for new exercisers or those that are trying to get back into their routine, what are some of your tips, or maybe how to find motivation outside of looking at other athletes? What do you suggest?
Yeah, getting started is the hardest thing with anything. Um, and everybody's heard it a million times, but just go, just do. The first step. I mean, just commit to going. The the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? As the saying goes. And we all have these intentions. Some of us are hyper planners, and we plan out the day beforehand or the week beforehand, and we've got these things that we want to do, and a lot of times we don't get around to doing it because life interferes. But I get it, life interferes, but I'm a big believer that you are the master of your own destiny, and you can choose to do whatever you want. If an obstacle comes up or a distraction comes up that could pull you away from doing what you want to do, maybe it's an errand or something that you didn't have planned on that day, and it took extra time out of your schedule, and now you are not being able to do your exercise or do the thing that you needed to do. I think that you can still do those things, if you don't allow yourself to say that you can't. So
Mhm.
just do it. Just go for it. Just forge ahead. Putting one foot in front of the other, going slow. Okay, so the other
Mhm.
thing about getting started is sometimes we're so excited to get started. It's easy to get out the door that first time, then the next day, you're so sore or so tired or so beat up because you probably went a little too fast or too hard or lifted too much weight
Mhm.
or whatever it is, that now you're just like, oh, I can barely even walk,
Mm-mm.
right? So another thing is, when you do decide to just get out that first time, uh, hold yourself back, apply some restraint and realize that it really is about consistency. It really is about not just getting out one time, but getting out multiple times, and then you form a habit, and you will be shocked at how quickly you can lose weight, how quickly you can go from being depressed to being in a really good mental space, how quickly you can go from being an average runner or athlete to being an exceptional athlete or runner or anything that you do, how quickly you can go from being just a decent coworker, a decent employee, to employee of the month. I promise, like, it doesn't take very long to do these things. And if we had a crystal ball and you could see how many days it took to get results that were satisfactory to you or
Mm-hmm.
exceptional to you, we would all be doing it. But crystal
Mm-hmm.
balls are in short supply, and it really is just a matter of having that faith and just having people that believe in you. That's where a coach comes in. I mean, shoot, you can employ a friend or a coworker to be your
Mm-hmm.
coach, but I
For
understand that
free.
Orion has some wellness coaches and people that are great. These are people that can help you see. They kind of have a pseudo crystal ball. I have, as a coach, I have a crystal ball in some regards to my athletes because I've seen so many different athletes from all different categories or spectrums of talent that when I see athletes, they resemble dozens or hundreds of other athletes that I've had, and they do this certain type of training and they get the same types of results that I've seen other athletes get in the past. I can tell them with almost 100% confidence what is going to happen. I can tell them almost with 100% confidence how fast they're going to run in their next race within, seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so put your faith in other people to push you and to help you, and you will be surprised on how much you can accomplish in such a short time if you just kind of put the blinders on. Don't get judged. Don't judge yourself based on other people. Do you, and do it every day, and you'll be shocked.
Well, and you went right back to your, second tip that you mentioned at the beginning. It's all about teamwork, right? Finding those people in your end of the ring, which is
Yep.
so amazing. And it brings, so much joy to have someone there, cheering you on or picking you up when you fall down. Chris, you mentioned something about kind of the mental high, which I want to revisit because you mentioned it in passing, but I want to kind of drill in and dig a little bit deeper on that with fitness and exercise. You may hate it and it may hurt. And, I know for me, the running leg of triathlons is the hardest part for me. But why do I finish and feel better? What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a physiological response, and it's well documented. But the runner's high, or the high that you get actually from just doing things that, um, and anything, achievement, accomplishment. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical, but while we're talking about physical, your body actually releases dopamine when you exercise. Dopamine it's the same thing as basically what some drugs help to induce, but this is totally natural. And those dopamines actually target a center of the brain that makes you feel good. And it also, there have been studies. There was a study recently, I believe it was at Harvard, and they they found that when you feel good and you have more of these levels of dopamine or these positive responses, I think the study was actually they had a control group that would have they would give negative feedback or be very hard on, very strict. You're not doing this. You need to do more. You need to do better. And then they had another group where they would give positive reinforcement. They would tell them how great they were doing, what a great job when they turned assignments in, and they would give high praise on what it was that they turned in. And they found a huge correlation between the high praise group and the positive reinforcement group, and levels of dopamine and levels of hormone that were positive on the brain and performance. And those in that group outperformed and
Mm-hmm.
stayed in school at a higher rate than the others. And it's no secret, right? I mean, we want to feel good at what we're doing, and we want to feel valued by our bosses and by our coaches and by the people who are around us. And when we feel like we've done a good job, um, and our biggest critic, and the one that we get the most positive reinforcement from or negative reinforcement from, you're looking at the person, right in the mirror every day. And so if you can convince yourself that you did something well, it'll go miles towards doing it more often and doing it at a better rate. And that dopamine, that release that you get from just being active, from just being doing something, is one of the biggest factors, one of the key factors from a scientific perspective that kind of fuels that progress.
Well, and talk about an addiction, right? When you feel that and you know what it feels like. I mean, there's a reason why the Iron Cowboy did 100 triathlons, right?
Yep,
There's got to be something to that.
absolutely. Yeah, you'd be surprised. I know people who absolutely hate running. They're like, nope, running is not for me. For me, swimming. It's like, nope, I can swim. I know how to swim. But if I'm not swimming with a surfboard underneath me, if I'm not paddling, swimming sounds like the most terrible thing that you could ever do, So, but, I remember when I was younger and a lot more talented and more ambitious, and I was doing triathlons competitively, I realized I had to swim it was the first leg of a triathlon, so you kind of have to do it. And so I thought, well, I might as well learn how to do this better. And as I started diving into the technique and the nuances of this new skill or this new objective, I started becoming fascinated by it. Oh wow, drag. When you're in the water,
Mhm.
drag is a thing. And so it's probably not beneficial to wear clothing that causes a lot of drag, that doesn't allow you to glide through the water efficiently, and the technique and the positions that you need to be in. And I found myself kind of getting pseudo addicted to the idea of
Mhm.
being a better swimmer. And then, poof, a couple weeks later, it was no problem for me to go to the pool regularly and get into a rhythm. I actually found it enjoyable, except for when I'd get out and I'd smell like chlorine for 4 days straight.
Yes,
But
yes, of course.
yeah. So you'd be surprised if there's something that you hate to do. Take a look at maybe the more technical side of it. How
Mm.
can I dissect this and become a better technician or be more efficient at doing that thing? And if you focus on that first, you'll be surprised that you might actually fall in love with it at the end. And I've seen many cases of people who hated running and now they're just absolutely obsessed with it. And these people I could probably have run circles around years ago, but now they run circles around me, and it's just because they get out there and do it and have been doing it consistently.
Yes, and I was just gonna, you just said the word. So again, I know most runners quit because they start out going too far and too fast and too hard, so I think you just nailed it with your consistency is, starting out slow and perfecting the little things is going to really help you get that, that feeling of dopamine and extra happiness. And man, you're overcoming, one more time, this opposition that we may be faced with is, oh my gosh, I hate running, but now I don't hate running anymore. Talk about overcoming opposition with running. So amazing. So we're running to the end of our time. Wanted to shoot a quick question over to you that came in about the QB, which is sounds like it's a pedaling machine that you would use underneath your desk. So any thoughts on that as kind of a coach in terms of fitness and exercise?
Sounds exciting. I mean, I've seen treadmill desks. I think it started initially with like a stand-up desk was kind of the new thing. Oh, well, I'm not going to sit down. I'm going to stand up at my desk. That sounds like I have like post-traumatic stress syndromes from working retail when I was, in high school, having to stand up the whole time without any breaks. But there's a lot of benefit to being active, and I know a lot of us have desk jobs where we are sitting for long periods of time, and the body's metabolism kind of adapts to that. That the heart rate comes down because it doesn't have to send blood to muscles that are working because they're not working and they're resting, and everything kind of sags a little bit. So yeah, I think that is great. QB is what it's called, and yeah, that sounds exciting. You'll be all the rage at work, and everybody will want to work at your desk to try it out. So yeah, getting a little bit of something in there is a fantastic way to boost some fitness. With regards to that consistency point, okay, the body loves to do things for longer periods of time, right? So, for example, you could run 100 miles in a week, but if you do that by running 2 miles at 8 a.m., 2 miles at 10 a.m., 2 miles at 12, doing it that way. When the body is only running 2 miles at a time or 15 minutes, it doesn't get into a state where it's actually benefiting. The systems don't come on long enough to get any adaptation or any level of adaptation from it. So make sure that you're doing it for an extended period of time. So if you are using that QB, instead of kind of doing it for shorter bursts or whatnot, maybe go on an easier setting that you can kind of sustain for a little bit longer. Or if make sure that you're doing it during a time that I like to call kind of my power hour. It's where I shut off all notifications, I lock my door, nobody talks to me. I am busy. I'm getting things done. I'm not gonna deviate. So maybe do that during your power hour, right? Where you got an hour of just like constant slow pedaling, and the body will benefit most from that, as opposed to you wake up in the morning or you get to work in the morning, you start pedaling on it. Oh, first meeting. You get off, you come back, you start pedaling. Oh, I got to go to the back. Got to stop. Okay.
Yeah, and I think I heard a couple of things that you said there. Find something that is interesting to you. You mentioned that earlier, finding something that you love, and maybe it's the QB, maybe it's something else. So again, I think that is huge. And then, just the consistency of making sure that you're tricking your body a little bit and you're not just going through the motions and keeping it pretty steady. So Chris, you've shared a lot of great things with us today. And as we wrap up our time, you will probably repeat a couple things, but I would love from Coach Chris Shane, your top 3 to 5 tips that you can give individuals to optimize their fitness level today.
Okay. Yeah, number one is consistency. Just do something over and over and over again. If you want to be good at something, and with that, specificity, okay? Specific. I'm not going to become a really good runner if I'm playing basketball and shooting free throws. Okay, you're not going to be a good free throw shooter if all you do is shoot 3-pointers, when you go to the gym. Being specific matters. And so if you want to run a good marathon or a good half marathon, doing a lot of short, quick intervals and things like that, and using a lot of your training time for that type of training is not very beneficial for running a good marathon. Being aerobically fit, or having a system that delivers oxygen efficiently in your body, is what you need 99% of the time to run anything over kind of a half marathon. So you need to spend time in that system or running aerobically. If you want to be good at running a mile, then you want to run faster. You want to run those things. So specificity is really important. Like I mentioned earlier, gradual adaptation. Okay, this happens at every level, even right now. My athletes, I fear that some of them get caught just showing up for practice, and when we have a hard workout, and they look at, okay, we're doing 10 by 1,000 meter repeats, and they're so concerned about finishing all 10 that they forget about how fast did I do this workout the last time? What were my paces the last time? And they will oftentimes do the same paces that they did the last time or the previous 2 times. And that isn't doing them much good. They might finish the workout and go, I finished, I did them all, the same paces that I needed to, but they didn't benefit from maximum adaptation because they didn't push themselves to that next step. Okay, so gradual adaptation to stress and overload, just a little bit of overload. It takes about 2 weeks for the body to get used to something, then you overload it. And then overload it, and then allow yourself to recover. Okay, that's the third point, is you have to have recovery days. In life, in work, in stress, you have to unplug sometimes. You have to have some you time. The body needs a chance to recover. So when you do hard work, usually 1 or 2 days, you've got to go easy and recover and relax. It doesn't mean to take a complete day off. It just means take the intensity out of it. Take the stress out of it. Pop the earbuds in. Drop the pace. Put the blinders on. Forget about cars when they see you on the road thinking, man, that gal is running so slow. Forget about it. Just get out there and recover. Okay,
Yes. Oh
and
my
then
gosh. I was just thinking about you too, having that mental health day. Even Coach Shane has his mental health, down days to recover. And I think that's so important.
absolutely. And then the last step, well, recovery, with recovery, okay, nutrition. Nutrition seems like this. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I don't know what to do. What types of things it's simple. Just stay away from saturated greasy fat fries and sodas and things like that. Doesn't mean you can't have them.
Mhm.
Just limit them, okay? It's just moderation and things here. I have a Coke all the time. My athletes look at me like, "Oh, coach, you're drinking soda." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have a Coke. I don't care. It's okay." But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go to a restaurant and before I leave, I'm not going to fill up my drink again and take it with me on the road as just an extra. Well, I didn't need that.
Yeah.
Okay, so just limit those types of things. And when you're talking about nutrition, the most important part of nutrition and performance is eat something right when you get done. Okay, the harder the workout, the more critical it is to eat some carbs, or if carbs aren't your thing, carbs are the best because they get into your system quickly. But try to get some proteins, try to get some things in your system. And it's not rocket science, just eat as healthy as you can, as clean as you can, and stay away from some of those junk foods. Um, and then the last thing that I'll say is keep a daily log.
Mm.
Okay, keep a journal of the things that you do. If you start to get, excuse me, sorry, got a little cough. If you start to develop a little bit of an injury, very common when you're first starting out, okay, you can go back in time, or maybe you've actually gotten through the first adaptation stage of like 2 weeks to kind of get into a routine. And then you start kind of increasing those paces or increasing that volume or increasing your tasks. And you notice that maybe, oops, I might have pushed it a little too much. I started feeling this little pull in my in my glute or in my knee, or something is kind of starting to hurt. Don't panic. That's okay. Take a look at what you did. Go back in your little written journal, and it could be as simple as just a piece of paper that says the date and what you did and how you felt.
Mm.
And that's it, one line, just one line, one line, one line. And then, 2 weeks from now, you might have something come up. You might, a foot thing might come up, or you might have start to get shin splints, or calves are really tight. And you can be like, oh man, I don't know what to do. Maybe I should back off. Well, chances are, if you look back at your log, you'll remind yourself, oh, I did a really hilly run the other day, or I climbed a whole bunch of stairs and my calves are hurting. Like, it happens to me all the time. The other day I was digging some irrigation things, and the next day I couldn't understand why I was so sore. I was like, what did I do? Because it didn't dawn on me that that thing would cause that response, right? And then I realized, oh yeah, I haven't picked up a shovel in a while, and yeah, just a sudden change. And it didn't mean that those muscles, like, oh man, I'm wrecked, I'm definitely injured, or I can't continue to do work. No, I could continue to pick up a shovel, but I just had to alert myself of why and how and when that was. And so when you keep a log, you can go back and look and go, oh, okay, I see. I started feeling this pain after this day, because in my log it says feeling great, feeling great, feeling great. Okay, day 4, uh, really, really sore, really, really tired. Day 5 or 6, you worked, had a really hard workout schedule, blah, 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 blah. And then day 7, can't run, injured,
Mm.
can barely walk. And you just have to go back and look at it and say, okay, I did this day, I wasn't quite recovered, I worked too hard too soon after that, and then I got injured. Okay, there's the recipe. I'll just not
Mhm.
do that in the future. I'll modify what I'm doing going forward, and I'll say, okay, after this hard workout, I know that I need at least this many days, at least, or more, so that I don't run into this issue again. And the body is incredibly resilient, and has the ability to repair itself as long as the mind is on board. Okay, so I know some people struggle with lingering injuries and things like that.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to have a little bit of pain. Just take the intensity out of things and up your sleep and up your your nutrition, your healthy food after you do a hard session, and you'll be surprised how quickly something that's been nagging you for a long time just suddenly goes away and isn't a thing anymore. So
No
those
question.
those are some
Yeah.
those are some tips from Coach Shane for y'all.
Well, Coach Shane, I feel like you just turned into a chef because you gave us so many different ingredients to kind of mix in there and figure out what we like to taste and what we don't like to taste. And I love
Voila.
it. So, yes, it's fantastic. So, thank you so much. I know I scribbled down a whole bunch of things that I'm going to use to kind of kickstart and make sure that I'm performing at my best. But again, thank you so much for your time today. For all of our listeners, appreciate you joining the call. Want to welcome you to next month's podcast as well. We'll be welcoming back our meditation expert. We'll be doing a mindfulness meditation. So again, I'm sure Chris could speak a whole nother, 45 minutes on, the benefits of mindfulness and meditation. So we'll be jumping into that with a guided meditation. So we hope you will join us then, July 21st. Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks to all of our listeners. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me.